Hey guys and gals, welcome to Reaction Gap. Today, today I want to talk about something that is definitely something that my family has considered and for a while now, and we have a connection to it. So I tend to pick topics that fit um, things we deal with and whatnot. Okay, so Florida. Um, there's a lot to take in, right? It's one of the fastest growing states in America. So you can just do a Google search and it will show you like a map of where people are leaving certain states and moving. There's like these arrows and whatnot, moving out of New York to Florida or California to Florida. Some of it is political, but um, it's definitely. I'm sure if you're watching this video, it's because you're probably considering the Florida move for a few reasons, right? Um, so every day, I'm sure thousands of people rather, they pack up their lives and they move south, right? Uh, so what are the thoughts? Lower taxes, warmer weather, cheaper homes, the dream, right? But here's the question: is Florida actually better? Or are people buying the fantasy? Okay. So today we're going to question one of the biggest migration trends in America. So, first question is, why is everyone moving? So, let's start with the obvious. Florida sells a dream. So, no state income taxes, year round sunshine, beaches, palm trees, golf, fishing, Disney, and retirement. So, growing up, I always associated Florida with a lot of these things, not necessarily the golf or yeah, palm trees and everything else. Disney, of course. Um, but you always heard it's a place where everyone retires. If you're living in the Northeast or anywhere else, you tend that move is usually Florida, right? That was the normal consensus. So if you scroll through social media, Florida looks like paradise. But social media, again, I've said this on a few different episodes, um, it only shows you the Saturday afternoon, not Tuesday morning, if you know what I mean. So the second part of what I want to talk about is money, right? Taxes in particular. Florida has no state income tax. Okay, that sounds incredible, right? But there's no such thing as free. How about insurance costs? So when you weigh those out, no state income tax on one hand. So we tend to focus more on the positives and not look at the potential negatives, right? So there's no state income tax, but then you also have higher insurance costs. That's one thing to consider. Some of the highest in America, actually. Homeowners insurance, flood insurance, auto insurance, and I think a very typical thing in Florida is HOA fees, which is the homeowners association fees. There's a lot of community bills, things like that, um, and property taxes, all things you have to consider. So many people save on the state income tax, only to find themselves leveraging or trying to leverage with something else. They're going to spend thousands somewhere else. So the real question isn't, you know, how much tax do I save? It's the total cost of living. Okay. So if you're considering a move to Florida for jobs, if you're retired, Florida may be amazing. But if you're building a career, it depends. Some industries thrive, like tourism, healthcare, construction, real estate, hospitality is huge. Hospitality and tourism kind of go hand in hand, right? But the salaries, they're often lower than states like my part of the world here, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, or definitely California, right? So a lower tax bill doesn't always beat a bigger paycheck. Okay, so obviously the big consideration too is weather. Everybody loves Florida weather until August comes around, right? 95 degrees, it's probably low. 95 degrees, 90% humidity. You walk outside and you're actually sweating before you get to your car, even, right? And bugs, that's a whole nother situation, right? Then there's hurricane season, right? You have power outages, flooding. If you live in a state where you never dealt with that, that's something to consider. Evacuations, insurance claims. Uh, just seeing this stuff on TV it's sad and it's a headache, right? I mean, Florida does give you sunshine, but it also asks you to respect Mother Nature on a different level. So I mentioned before about social media. You see posts on, a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, family time, but um, nobody really posts their electric bill, their insurance premiums, uh, if they have to get a roof replaced after a major storm. I mentioned bugs before, mosquitoes. If you're a certain blood type like I am, those things they find you. It doesn't matter where you are. Um, they're like the size of helicopters. They're huge. And then the bugs that eat the mosquitoes, the dragonflies, those are massive. Um, so so then if you're living, I mean, I think every home has some sort of water drainage just because of the soil in Florida. So, possibly deal with alligators. They like that swampy environment. Iguanas, I think they're everywhere. And they fall out of trees when it gets cold. That's a funny thing. Iguanas, when they get cold, they're hasta luego sauce. Um, those aren't any vacation photos. Most people don't post that stuff. And then let's think about, we talked about, jobs in Florida or going after a career in Florida. How about family? How about, most people don't talk about this, like the distance. You don't realize what you've lost until the birthdays happen without you, until your parents or siblings they get older, grandchildren they grow up without you being there. They might be a FaceTime call away, but it's not the same as a hug. And I think that's probably the biggest cost of moving, and it's not even financial. It's emotional. So definitely take that into consideration. Homes. Florida, it used to be cheap. I've been tracking Florida, no kidding, since uh, the 90s, I would say. Um, a lot of people moved because the prices were very affordable. I mean, obviously, depending on what part of Florida. Um, but how are they today? It's not affordable everywhere. Some markets they exploded, like Miami, Orlando, Tampa. They exploded. Some kind of cooled down depending on the market, like I said. Um, and some condos, they have, I mentioned the HOA. Those seem to keep getting larger and larger rather. So if you're thinking of buying in Florida, you need to do some serious research. Luckily, we have the technology to look at different angles, not just uh, costs, but other things. Um, because if you buy a bad deal in paradise, it's still a bad deal. A bad deal is a bad deal. It doesn't matter where you are, right? And let's talk about the culture difference, right? I deal with people all day long. In the Northeast, where I'm licensed also in Florida. So, you know, clients, they move or they think of moving, they change their mind. I've seen very mixed emotions. I've seen folks trying to come back from Florida. Um, so, I mean, Florida itself, it's not one culture. It's dozens. I mean, it's New Yorkers, it's people from New Jersey, Canadians, Midwesterners, uh, definitely retirees, right? It's Toyota Camrys and retirees and restaurants and Disney, right? Um, I mean, there's people from all over the place, like young professionals, Latin America, people from Europe. It's actually one of the most diverse states in the union, and people love it. But others, like, they never really feel at home. You aren't just changing your address, you're changing your lifestyle, right? Something definitely worth considering. So the main question is, should you move to Florida? Maybe, maybe not. The problem isn't Florida. The problem is making a permanent decision based on temporary emotions or Instagram reels. I mean, don't make a move, without researching, right? Some people make the move, but it's really not what they imagined. So the research is important. There's a difference there, right? Going on an emotional move, research is super important. So if you're looking for lower taxes, Florida might make sense. If you're chasing the sunshine, I mean, Florida has plenty of sunshine, right? It's called the Sunshine State. But if you're expecting paradise, you're going to be disappointed because every place has trade offs. The smartest people don't ask, where is perfect? They actually ask, which imperfections can I live with? And that's why the gap our reaction to it is based on. The difference between buying a dream and building a life. So if you're thinking about moving to Florida, I'd like to hear from you. That might still be a consideration for me and my family. So I'd like to know your thoughts. If you've done some awesome research, share it so everyone could, uh, you know, obviously help folks make a decision. Would you do it? And if you already live in Florida, what's the one thing that nobody warned you about? Leave it in the comments. We can only help each other through sharing, right? If you enjoyed this challenging the conventional wisdom podcast, please subscribe to my channel, Reaction Gap. I appreciate those of you that made it till the end, as always. And as I always say, our motto here is question everything, question often. Hope to speak to you soon. Bye bye.